Okay, so welcome back. We're still doing our restoration project with 3AZ36 early series Phantom 3 with the Hooper body. And today we're going to be putting together a set of leaf springs. As you'll notice, the leaves have all been cleaned up, and they've all been cleaned up and cadmium plated. You'll also notice markings that I have on them to indicate which side, so that all the leaves go back together the way they came apart. This is a Sharpie mark. I had also put a pock mark with a punch in a row on there. And that's very important because you just don't know how these springs all wore together. And also there are some models where the center hole is not right at the center of the leaf. That one side of the leaf may be longer than the other. And you, again, want to put it together the proper way. So Phantom 3 having a Bézier system, the Bézier system extends into the leaf spring groove here, and then the leaf that goes on that has a has grooves, has a hole, and then on the other side it has grooves in it to allow the oil to kind of flow out. And then it goes down into the next hole and does the same thing. The oil spreads out in there, and then the next hole and spreads out there. And then they stop about midway, I would say. Again, you'll notice that there's still a little bit of grooving. I didn't go down all the way because I still wanted to leave some thickness to the spring. I didn't want to thin it out too much. But that makes a dramatic difference to smooth out that grooving and get rid of as much of it as you can. Because they do wear, and if you have that groove there, it'll stiffen up the ride significantly. So not only will the rust stiffen up the ride, but also the grooving. And the groove is similar to where you'll have a ridge that develops on the top of a cylinder bore from the piston and the ring going up to the cylinder, and it'll create that ridge. Well, this kind of does the same thing. It creates a ridge from each leaf rubbing into each other. Now, when we go back together, we're going to put a significant amount of molybdenum disulfide grease. That's this stuff in between each leaf, and you'll watch me as I'm doing that. Molybdenum disulfide is good for a metal-to-metal contact lubrication. So when you have steel on steel, you want molybdenum disulfide is your best bet. Unlike other componentry that may have bronze bushings or pads or something in between that, again, these are just steel on steel. And also, as I said in the previous videos, these are beautifully made springs. Rolls-Royce really put a lot of effort in design and study into them. So, you have some people that say, well, they're old leaf springs, throw them out, have new ones made. Well, in my opinion, you're not going to have new ones made that are this nice. Nobody's going to take the time to have all these tapered ends and oil holes and grooves and all that. Trying to get a company to put all that back in is just going to be a very difficult thing to accomplish. So so not only are all the leaves cadmium plated, here's a finished leaf. I have the other side all fully assembled. I also had the clips and other hardware cadmium plated as well, since I was there and getting it done. And I had some tooling cadmium plated also, since I was going in that direction. Some countries cadmium plating is banned, so it may be very difficult for you to find that. Even in the United States, it's difficult to find somebody that does it. There's still some aircraft companies that require it, and also some military spec where cadmium plated is the only thing that they'll use. So you can get lucky at times and find a cadmium plater somewhere, but it's not always very easy. In this case, it wasn't terribly expensive. I forget the final bill, but I was relieved that, you know, it wasn't too terrible. Okay, so we have everything prepared and we're ready to stack on the leaves. I also wanted to mention that when it comes time, if you need to do your shackle pins and bushings, you want to do that before you put everything together, because it's a lot easier to handle the master leaf if you have to press in a bushing and then hone it out and get good clearance and all. So just keep that in mind. You don't want to get it too far ahead of yourself and put the whole thing together, because when it's all together, it's surprisingly heavy. And I also wanted to go back and reiterate that I made a mistake in a previous video, and I stated that the spring eyes are forged. And while I'm correct, I'm also wrong. One end is indeed forged and the other end is indeed rolled. And of course, a forged eye is a much better design than a rolled eye. And on earlier cars, I think nearly all of them are forged. And if you go to a spring remanufacturer to have new springs made, they're almost always going to make a rolled eye. And let me just show you the difference. Forged eye. And on the other end, we have the rolled eye. And you'll see the split right there from, that's where the, when they rolled it, where they met up. But you know, they did a beautiful job on the rolling of the eye, getting everything matched up nicely. And you know, again, you're never going to find a company that's going to take the time to do that. All right, so let's get this leaf set together. I'm going to put a nice layer of our molybdenum disulfide grease, and that's going to go in between each leaf. I'm using a putty knife, but I'm sure perhaps a brush or even a finger or something like that would work fine. Also, I'm wearing gloves just to make life easier in case I have to stop and do something or need to have clean hands really quickly. I can just whip off the glove. The grease isn't going to hurt you at all if it gets on your skin. As I stated in the earlier video, it makes a significant difference to go to the trouble and redo your leaf springs. The handle and the ride of the car will be greatly improved. It's quite amazing how much wear they really can suffer from many, many years and miles and all. And in case you didn't notice, this is just a 5/16 coarse threaded rod, and we're going to use that to sort of squeeze them all together once we have them all stacked, greased and stacked on here. Get that out of the way. Another thing that's really useful and a good idea to have around are Sharpie markers. because you can write on just about anything and it'll stay on there fairly well. And then again, you can remove it with a little lacquer thinner solvent or something to get it off. But you know, I always put marks on things to make sure they're going back together the correct way, and also marking things as I take them apart. It's a very important thing to do, and these cars are so critically assembled, hand fitted, and it just can make a big difference in a lot of little things. Cadmium plating leaf springs started in the very end of the Phantom 1. And it might have actually originally started in the Springfield works and then carried over to the British. Cadmium is really good for rust and corrosion protection, and it also has a lubricating sort of characteristic to it as well. And it looks nice. I mean, these are going to get all covered up with leather gaiters as it was originally done. Also, since I have the chance now, here are what the grooves look like that transfer the oil to the ends of the leaf springs. Sometimes they're worn and rusted and almost gone away, so you can grind them back in, and I think it is an important thing to have. And sometimes these holes are just rusted shut, where there's some other solid material in there blocking them. So you want to make sure they're open as well. I don't think there's any real significant danger of being harmed when assembling or disassembling leaf springs like this, except for the fact that they are heavy and you could give yourself a hernia. But there's no tension or anything like that. Or it could fall over on top of you. That's another thing you got to be careful of. And as I said before, Rolls-Royce is very particular about their springs. They really wanted to make sure that the car had a very nice ride and was stable on the road and that their customers would be happy. And if you look in your chassis build records, you'll see spring cards, which will give you the rating of the spring. And I guess they probably did that for a sake of reference. They may have used that reference for other chassis to know what rate spring to use for certain body types, or if a customer went to order a second car, you know, how they liked their springs. And you also notice that sometimes customers made comments that, you know, they had a previous model, Phantom 2 or something like that, and they liked the springs in that, and they want similar spring in their new Phantom 3. So they would use similar rates in that car as well. Now, of course, Phantom 3, the front suspension is coil springs, so we don't have to worry about leaf springs on the front end. And all that's been done already on this car. So we get our next leaf. Not sure exactly what this little bit of discoloration is, but I don't think it's any big deal. So if you want to have an idea of how much grease you're going to need, I did these two leaf spring sets with 1 pound, a 1 pound can, and I used just about the entire can. And of course I have extra areas that I'm going to be wiping that off as well. Flat washer. You also want to be sure that you have an ample length of a threaded rod. If you're too short, then you almost have to start all over again. So now we just wind them down and squeeze all the leaves together. The vise finally made its way up. Oops. At this stage, I like to put on a couple of the clips, and normally I go for the longest ones, which would be these, and that'll keep the leaves from kind of wanting to swivel away from each other. Sort of line things up here. These are 3/8 British Standard Fine, so you can use a regular 3/8 American lock washer as well. I don't know what that translates to in the metric, but I think that there's a very similar size. And since I'm at it, I'm going to put this other long one on as well. Stay there. Okay, so now we need to transfer from the threaded rod to the proper stud that goes in there. So in order to do that, we put a C-clamp on here to squish it all up. We're almost there. Aha. And once I get there, should have just hooked on a power drill and spun the rod. But Yeah.
There's grease all over this door handle.
I'll wipe it off. Okay, so now we have that master pin in, we can take off the seat. And of course, get rid of all the extra grease.